Hey, feeling it on a Monday afternoon. Smothered and covered sports. We're recording remotely today. Frank and his hacienda, dancing, grooving, shaking that. I'm not even gonna say what he's shaking. Just having a
I'm
great Monday, baby. Frank, how
checking
you
that.
feeling?
I'm feeling great. The gospel of the Lord is upon us. It's a great
Oh,
day to be a Husky.
I knew it was coming. You had to start with the Huskies. You had to bring up the alma mater. Man,
That's
hey,
right.
everybody watching, welcome to Smothered and Covered Sports. It's our Monday morning college football edition. We're going to get into some great stuff today, but first, we want to thank all of our sponsors. Carolina Steel being number one. I actually went and watched the Carolina game there Saturday night, and it was packed out, standing room only. Wings are flying, booze was flying. Great place to watch a game. Then again, we've got the good Tap and Vine, one name, three locations. Quail Hollow coming soon. Valentine and Indian Trail. Great place to dine. Great place for a date. Indian Trail has good live music. So does the Valentine location. Make sure you check them out. And always a big thank you to Stroll Magazine. Stroll Magazine is the Run Country Club. It is mailed on a monthly basis, and they will feature this beautiful face and Frank's ugly mug every time. So, Frank, it's a great day today, man. We're going to be talking North Carolina football. We're going to be talking our surprises this week, and then we're going to talk movement in the top 25. But first, Frank, we got to talk about your University of Washington Huskies beating the number 8 Oregon at home by missed field goal in one of the best Pac-12 games with the most on it in recent memory. It also turned into a showcase for the now Heisman frontrunner Michael Penix, who threw 302 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He did everything he could, left it all on the field. Wonderful game. Frank, what'd you think of it?
Well, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be the front runner. If he's the front runner, I don't follow all that stuff quite yet because I really don't think it means anything. But I could tell you this: he's a football player, and he got it done on Saturday when when he was up against it. They done the game, and then Oregon found a way to kind of rally back and take the lead late in the game, and coaching decision to go for it on 4th and 3 from about the 50, 40 something yard line with about 2.5 minutes to go. May have bit him in the butt, but I can appreciate Oregon's head coach for at least laying it out on the line, knowing that his defense was playing pretty well and he had a chance to take the game. But Penix, after they had a great stand from the Huskies, was able to drive them down the field for what ended up being the game-winning touchdown. Great college football environment, one of the best in college football. Played in a lot of stadiums around the country, almost all of them, Dan. And being at home at Washington, you're going to be tough pressed to find a better ambiance, better environment. And the crowd was into it on both sides. You get a lot. It's one of the better rivalries in the Northwest, if not the best rivalry. I know it's not the Apple Cup or the Civil War between Oregon and Oregon State, but it's a big rivalry for the Pac-12 North, and I think that's what you saw. Both teams landed out on the line as they were undefeated going into Saturday, and thankfully, the good Lord was shining on Husky Stadium, and there wasn't too many geese flying over top to drop any bombs.
Yeah, man.
Other than Penix dropping bombs on the Ducks. So they did a good job and ultimately came away with the win, the victory. Most disappointed, though, however, Dan, is that they were number 7 in the country and they played in number 18, a pretty close battle. And I've always been disappointed in the lack of respect that the Northwest, the Huskies, and the Ducks both get.
Well, I mean, I can understand the frustration, but there's not a lot of movement in front of them. I mean that you got to think that all the in front of them won their games. I think I don't remember who they jumped, but they jumped one. It's hard to supplant Georgia. It's hard to supplant Michigan. Hard to supplant Florida State, who dominated their game. Penn State. I mean, they played a UMass team that they beat 63-0. So I mean, like in the middle of the season, you're not going to get a big jump.
Well, I mean, these polls right now don't matter much anyways until the BCS polls come out. So I know it's just food for fodder for us
That's right.
talking. However, when Texas beat Alabama, which is an average Alabama team with a
Mm.
quarterback that is terrible, they found a way to jump up to number 3. And I think they were 10 or 11. Alabama was, I believe, 3. They just traded places. You got
Yep.
the Huskies in a top 10 opponent and a very well-respected opponent, and what a lot of people are arguably calling the best conference in college football in the Pac-12, and they beat them, and they move up one spot or two spots. So, I think Florida State could have dropped. I don't know if they're better than Florida State. I do think they're better than Ohio State. I think they're a top 3 team in the country, and I know time will tell. The BCS rankings will come out. They may get a little bit more love there just because of the way they value the numbers and they played. But there's going to be a lot of competition in the Pac-12 this year, and it'll be interesting to see where my Huskies fare.
Yeah. Well, just a reminder, the BCS is no longer the college playoff committee, but yeah, it once them out, those are the rankings and there's, if you look at the coaches poll, the coaches poll is very different. I think that they moved up to 4 in the coaches poll. Alabama moved up to number 8 in the coaches poll. Either way, I mean, look, it's all opinion. And the hard part is the press control.
About Alabama. Nobody cares about Alabama. Nobody.
Right.
We're not talking about Alabama. We're talking
Yeah.
about the Huskies.
Yeah. Well, I'm just using it as an example, and a lot of people care about Alabama. You see, if you ever want to look it up, there's a graphic out there that shows they're the most searched team in the nation. But there's a lot of people that care about Alabama. But look, let's transition here. Let's go to the team that the other team that I care about. That you constantly pick on me for being a homer for both teams. But hey, let's talk about the Tar Heels. How about the Tar Heels? So now number 10 in the nation, Tar Heels. They hosted Miami in what we both agreed would be a terrific, big marquee game for the North Carolina Tar Heels. They hosted the number 21 team, Miami Hurricanes, and did what they needed to do in Keenan. And I'll tell you what the biggest thing is before we get to what happened on the field. The students were on time, Frank. The students were on time. They were there. They were hyped. They were getting into the game. There were kids with with their bodies painted, screaming, leaning over the walls. It's something that Keenan has never seen before. And that's the reason that Carolina has arrived as a football team, because the fan base is finally buying in to what Mac Brown's doing over there. They're in the top 10. They took down Miami in a very, very impressive second half. They ran the ball over 150 yards. They dominated both sides of the ball after halftime. Drake May had an accurate but average statistical game, and they still won. And we got our wide receiver back from Kent State, Trey Walker, who's been sidelined by the NCAA all year. It's his first game back, and he showed up with 3 touchdowns, 2 receiving, one rushing. So it was a very, very, very special game for the North Carolina Tar Heels. And Frank, they have arrived. What do you think about that?
We'll see. But I can tell you this, that going into, let's say, rewind last year to this time, if we were to talk about the Tar Heels and Duke football being where they're at last year and saying that their football programs are going to be more relevant or at least more talked about or highly ranked than their basketball programs, I think we'd have won a lot of money because
Absolutely.
I don't think many are taking that. I mean, the fact that we're talking about the Tar Heels, the fact that we're mentioning them and their top 10 team says a lot where that program is coming. It says a lot for Coach Brown, and it says a lot for Drake May. I think Drake May, he's a kid that I have nothing but praise for. I know his demeanor. I've seen him grow up. I've seen great quarterbacks play. I've played with several of them. I've seen what talent looks like at the highest level, and he has all the skills, all the intangibles. And I think Drake May, as we get closer, is going to continue to push and get more coveted as an NFL talent. But what he's doing for the Tar Heels right now is he's finding a way to win. And you look at their point totals through the season, they're averaging about 38 points, 37 points. They scored 31 against South Carolina, 40 against App State. And everybody's going to say, oh, App State, what a big win. App State's they're a good program, not maybe their best team this year. They scored 31 against Minnesota. They put 41 at Pitt on the road, Syracuse, they put 40 up, and then again against Miami, they put 41 up. And I agree with you. That game really wasn't as close as the score indicates. It was more of a woodshedding, and Miami, coming in late. But, Mac Brown has done an incredible job with that program. And I can go back to several years ago when they hired him, and I thought it was an average to below average hire. I didn't think he was going to relate with the kids. I thought the game had passed him by. And I love when people prove people wrong. And he's proven me wrong because that program's growing, it's building, and he's getting great talent. I know this for a fact. Drake May had multiple offers from NIL deals to leave Carolina.
Alabama was one of them. He was committed at Alabama until Max showed up.
Yeah, they don't have enough money. A testament to what Drake May and who Drake May is he's committed to something. He believed in Mac Brown because Mac Brown believed in him. He loves that university. He's a legacy. His brother went there. His dad went there. And, I have nothing but great things to say about Drake May and what he's doing at Carolina. He made them relevant. He's made them a top 10 program.
Hold on. Hold on. I'll stop you. Are you trying to tell me that in your opinion that Alabama, the University of Alabama, did not have enough money to bring Drake May to Alabama? Are you nuts?
Is that all you heard from that?
No, I heard everything else, but it was hard to get past that statement. They have the highest paid coach.
Sunk into that big fat skull of yours. That
I'm just saying, it's hard to get past a statement like that. Alabama's got all the money in the world for football.
They didn't get Drake May. Not enough.
Guy's loyal. Hey, exactly like you said, he's loyal. But don't say it's because Alabama.
You know this as the businessman. You know this as a the world revolves around the dollar, and everything has a price. They didn't have enough money.
We'll see. I don't agree with that, but okay. I think he's a loyal guy. I think he knows he's going to the NFL. I think that ultimately Drake May is just a good man who wants to live in the legacy of his father and his brother, and they make enough money as it is. He don't need money.
Alabama, they don't need money. Oh, my gosh. That's like telling Bill Gates he doesn't need more billions. Bill Gates or anybody else is one. People drive up. There's no such thing as enough money. Everybody wants more. Everybody. I don't care how much you have, how little you have. You want more. Alabama didn't have, let me say this. Microphone on. Alabama didn't.
What's that? I can't hear you.
Alabama didn't have enough to get Drake May. I think that was clear enough.
Well, he didn't go. We'll leave it to the people who really answered. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, but hey,
he didn't go.
You had some very nice things about it. Yeah, that's right. He didn't go. You got some very good things to say following that about Drake May. Yes, he's an outstanding human being. He's a great kid from Charlotte. Played at Myers Park. Awesome guy. I hope he wins the Heisman, but more so I hope he's a top 5 pick, which it looks like he's going to be. And it's just great for the University of North Carolina.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if North Carolina's ever had a Heisman winner. I know Washington hasn't. I don't believe maybe Hugh McElhenney back in the day before the history books were invented. But I don't think either one of those programs have a Heisman Trophy winner. So it would be great for the University of North Carolina, the Tar Heels, University of Washington, if either of those guys got it. But I think they're more focused on winning the national championship and beating their next opponent. Yeah. And we're going to have a showdown, and North Carolina's still got some work to do. They got UVA, which should be a cakewalk. Those are the type of games in past, if you're a Tar Heel fan, have come to
you've lost them.
Right? And you've lost a couple of times where games you should have won. They played Duke, which is going to be a showdown. It might be two top 10 teams at the time. When that game rolls around, if Duke continues to handle business. I know we're not talking about Duke, but Duke is about ready to have a rude awakening. I know they're a good football program, but they play Duke, they play Clemson, and then we're going to find out, how good North Carolina really is after that final stretch down the road. Duke, Clemson, NC State.
Well, North Carolina, this is their next 3, Frank, before Duke, and this is just worth noting. North Carolina's they're hosting Virginia this Saturday, then they're at Georgia Tech, and then hosting Campbell. So there's no reason they're not rolling into the hosting Duke on November 11th 9-0. There's no reason they shouldn't be.
Well,
So
there's no reason.
if Duke does their job and rolls in with one loss when they're facing, I'm going to look it up real quick here. When they're facing Florida State at night. It's going to be tough to get out of that one alone. But if they can get past that, I mean, they've still got a much tougher schedule in North Carolina, and we'll see what happens.
If Duke runs the table, trust me when I tell you this, they'll be a top 10 program. They're not running the table.
No, they're not.
They're not beating Florida State. They're not beating Louis. They may beat Louisville. They're not beating North. And they're the meat of their games are about to come, and we're going to find out who Duke is as a program. Listen, I'm not taking anything away from them. They're a good, solid football team. They're just not varsity level quite yet. They're like that team that just stepped in but needs a couple pieces left. Especially quarterback going down earlier in the season. So
I think it's hard to see and hear that if you're a follower of the ACC, considering the way they beat Clemson. So I think that some people are drinking the Kool-Aid, treating it as fool's gold. And I agree with you, but I think as a global, it's tough to see because Clemson dominated the ACC for the last 10 years, and then you see the way that Duke beat Clemson. There's a lot of people that took that game as a big statement for Duke and why they're going to be good. And then they held Notre Dame to 21 points. They only scored 14, but still, they gave no fights. They're definitely, to your point, a very good football team. I don't think that they're undeserving of their ranking either, but I agree with you as well that them getting through the next two, I don't know if they split the next two games, they're going to do really well because it's at Florida State and then at Louisville. That's a tough road.
Listen, I think Florida State is quietly the second best team in the country. They're not too quiet. They're ranked number 4, but
over your alma mater.
Yeah, I think they're better. I think Florida State has more athletes and more to be catching dogs than Washington. They have a great quarterback. They have a wide receiver that is NFL ready yesterday. He's a freak athlete, and he just makes play. I don't know if you saw the catch over the weekend. He went up over the middle of the field, the 50-yard line, and looked like he was playing baseball, catching a baseball with a baseball glove. The way he caught the football, treetop level, in behind him. So
did you see the reverse angle of it that looks like a Jordan Brand pose?
I mean, and his speed after the – I think he ran a punt back. The guy is a bigger version of Desmond Howard in college football back in the day. You're talking about Heisman candidates. He's one of them that could definitely, sneak in and get some recognition and get closer to those Heismans. But he's a difference maker. He's a game changer. Ask anybody he's played. You got to know where he's at.
Yeah. Well, look, hey, this is a good time to stop and say thank you again to our sponsors, Carolina Steel. We can't celebrate them enough. For what we do in this atmosphere and talking sports, Carolina Steel is by far the best sports bar to visit. It is higher end, great feel, great food, great service. I mean, the wings there. My wife does not eat wings, and the wings were 20% off this on Saturday. And we ate wings, and my wife loved, Frank, the hot garlic Parmesan. Absolutely loved them. It was a treat to her. It was a treat to me to see her get messy and eat wings because she's one of these Southern classic girls that doesn't like to get dirty, as you well know. We had some sliders. There's French fries. Their French fries are as good as McDonald's, which is amazing. Great drinks, great place. And then again, our favorite dining location, non-sports related, Tap and Vine. That's one name, 3 locations. You got Indian Trail, Ballantyne, Quail Hollow soon to open, and then Stroll Magazine. Check out Stroll Magazine if you're in the Ballantyne area. So Frank, and we're talking about our brand, and we're moving and shaking. We're out here on YouTube. We're out here on Facebook. You can catch us on podcasts, the iCast podcast deal. You can catch us on Instagram. We can catch you on the golf course. We're making, man.
Yeah, anywhere you want to go. We're in magazines. We're in restaurants. We're all over the place. And definitely, if you want to try to get a little action, you can catch us on the golf course for sure.
That's right. Hey, I'm getting some requests to go do a live at Carolina Steel again. So we'll have to talk to the man team about maybe putting up some speakers because there's some people interested in us going live there again, which would be a lot of fun, do some interaction.
I don't care about going live or not. I care about are they going to feed us or not?
Oh, they're going to feed us.
That's all I'm telling you.
They got to feed us, baby. All right, man. Well, let's get into the second part of our segment today. College football, big surprises. I got to go first because the probably the most shocked of anybody happened Friday night. Friday night's game, Colorado, Stanford in Colorado. They're up 29-0 at halftime, 29-0, and then lose in triple overtime. It's worth mentioning too. I'm sorry I paused, but it's worth mentioning too. Stanford was a 1-win team going in this game. Colorado has all the talent in the world. They have the best coach in college football. How do they lose that big of a lead at home to a 1-win team? Please explain this. It blew my mind. I can't even analyze it.
I was watching Friday night that game after our high school football game was over. I was at the great establishment of Carolina Steel as we finished the game. It was about 10:30. Sitting there watching that game and seeing Prime over there, shuffling, that big smile on his face. Things were going great. And then the snowball started happening. Turnover here, touchdown there. Next thing you know, they're in a fight. And that smile turned to concern very quickly. And ultimately, the bus couldn't handle it. They went into overtime, and Stanford found a way to win it towards the end of the game. Probably the biggest shock and disappointment that Colorado's had this season, no doubt, with where they thought. And that's just where they're at, Dan. They're not. I said it a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't Sanders and his inability to coach. I think he's a hell of a coach. I'd want to play for him. I'd want to play for a coach like that. I'd want my son to play for a guy like that. But it's more about just the decisions. The team in general. He doesn't have the players yet. And eventually, Brenson Buckner, longtime NFL player, used to do a show with me, and we talked about it all the time. When the hype and the heart wears off, you got to play football. And what that means is eventually the momentum and the sway is going to turn, and it comes down to, am I better than you? Am I consistent? Am I more prepared? Am I bigger? Am I faster? Am I stronger? So that hype and heart wears off of everybody. And then it's how good of a football player you are. And that's where Colorado, they just don't have enough big, fast, strong guys to compete 4 quarters consistently against the Pac-12 teams.
But against Stanford? A 1-win Stanford?
The Pac-12 teams.
Man.
Consistently. There's going to be time. There's going to be times when the hype and the heart wears off. Okay. Eventually, the consistency comes through. The shine is off the Colorado Buffs now. The hype and the heart has worn off. Now they're showing their colors of who they are. They lost to a 1-win Stanford team who is identical in stature, size, skill to Colorado. So, yeah, they lost to a 1-loss Stanford team.
Okay. So how much of this is on Coach Prime?
I mean, he's got those guys believing. He's got all the swag and all the confidence, but it's hard to have swag and confidence when you're looking up the scoreboard and you're down. When you're up, it's easy to pump the chest and show what time it is. But when you're losing games, it's going to be hard to talk and walk, or walk and talk that talk if you're not backing up. So. That's where I think right now it's, hey, let's maybe quail back on the the showtime and the Prime and keeping your receipts. Let's go play football, and I think Prime will get them there because he's failed before, but he's going to find a way to succeed, and it's going to take a couple years. That program is definitely heading in the right direction, but the shine has knocked off those helmets, and now you got to play football.
Yeah, I mean, and it's worth noting too. They are all those guys. It's a brand new roster. Off of one, they won 1 game last year. Overall, Coach Prime's done where a lot of people couldn't do it, but in Colorado for a very long time. I know there's a lot of people out there that are asking the same question. That's why I thought it would be to ask you. I mean, I continue to be a fan of Deion Sanders, but it's hard not to ask that question.
Yeah,
Well, Frank,
absolutely.
what was your prize of the weekend?
There's a couple of them, Dan. I think South Carolina losing the way they lost. They were up 10 with a couple minutes to go. Alabama barely beating Arkansas.
Oh, man, Arkansas is a much better team than their record shows.
Can I finish?
No.
I finish?
Alabama
is one of the biggest favorites of the week, looking like they were in shock and awe of Arkansas. If we're going to sit there and talk about Arkansas being better than their record shows, we say the same thing, Stanford. All right.
You said the same thing about Stanford.
Okay.
Arkansas has 4 losses, all by 7 points or less, Frank. All in the SEC.
And they almost beat Alabama, who is a 19-point favorite.
Better than the record shows.
Barely snuck by them. And I'm sure it cost you some money. It didn't cost me any. I didn't like the game. It's an SEC opponent. So that was probably one of my biggest shocks of the week. That's probably where I'd say,
you mentioned one other earlier when we were talking, the Domer game.
I mean, Notre Dame, USC's, I don't know if I'm surprised by that, Dan. I was maybe surprised in how badly the quarterback played for SC. I think that the message is for SC, or for when you play SC, is get pressure on Caleb. Name's escaping me. The quarterback, Caleb Williams, and he's gonna throw it up in the air and get you some picks, and that's what we saw against Notre Dame. I think he took 6 early in the game, and they were frustrating him all over the place. So I know the game was in South Bend, but it didn't look good for Caleb Williams, and I know that a lot of people talking about him being the best quarterback in the country, and he's going to be this, and he's still a good quarterback. But it just showed how he did pressure very well, something he has to work on.
Agreed. I'll tell you, I watched that entire game. I was glued to the television set for a number of reasons. But, I'm sitting here and watching it, trying not to laugh at his fingernails. He does a big thing with his fingernails every week. But I'll tell you what the big surprise to me of that game was, Frank, is that Notre Dame was so aggressive and USC looked like a spanked dog the entire game. They took the fight out of USC so fast, and their body language showed it the entire game. I mean, Caleb throws that pick 6. They're hitting hard, et cetera, and USC could just never recover. And you're not talking about a Notre Dame team that puts a lot of points on the board, man. This is the most points they scored all year. They scored 48 points, and USC had countless possessions. And they couldn't do anything with it. It looked like they gave up after the first quarter. That blew my mind away.
I think I have been saying this since the beginning of the season, that USC is probably arguably the most overrated team in college football.
Yes.
They're winning games. They beat San Jose State. They beat Nevada. They beat Stanford. They beat Arizona State. They beat Colorado in a close one, which Colorado almost found a way to win that. And then they barely beat Arizona at home 43-41 before getting spanked by Notre Dame. Notre Dame looked like the superior football team since they walked off the bus, and Caleb Williams looked like a deer in the headlights. So
he did.
The speed of which Notre Dame was playing versus the other teams that they had faced was night and day, and that's why I thought that USC was probably one of the most overrated teams. They don't play defense, and eventually that came back to haunt them. But even that being said, they scored 20 points. And as good as going to be, or as he is, he can't do it by himself. And USC kind of showed their true colors a little bit in that game.
Yeah, they did. All right, man. Well, look, we got to talk one last thing here. Some just top 25 movements. We've already talked Washington and them going to they got to 5 in the AP poll. You don't think that's good enough? But what other things within the top 25, within the AP top 25, not coaches poll, but the AP top 25? What are you happy with? What do you look at as like one of those like marks of I can't believe that these guys got here? For example, and yes, the Homer's talking, but this is just an example. Hey, UNC jumped Alabama. Alabama didn't move. Alabama stays at number 11 in the AP poll, and North Carolina goes to number 10. me personally, I'm happy to see that because Alabama doesn't deserve to be in the top 10 right now the way they're playing. And that's the most honest statement I think I'll ever make on this broadcast. But they do not deserve to be a top 10 team, and the Associated Press did the right thing in the way they called it.
I can see the pain in your
It
face right
hurts.
now.
Man, it hurts. I mean, my jaws are locked up right now.
It's hard for you to say that. It's hard for you to admit they're a good football team.
They're not deserving of being a top 10 team. Very big difference. They can still get into the top 10. They can still turn it on. I still believe in them. I still believe in Jalen Milroe. Their defense is world class. They're not done. Their season isn't over.
For Alabama, their season is over.
No
They are not a top 10 program, as you just said yourself. They will not be in the SEC championship game. They will not be playing for a national championship. They will not have the opportunity. For Alabama, that's underachieving, right? From where they were
SEC title game.
From where they were at the beginning of the season to where they're at right now is not even close to the expectations or the standards of Nick Saban or Alabama. So they have probably been as big of a disappointment. I know they're 6-1 right now.
Yep.
As you know, and I know, that 6-1 isn't a dominant 6-1 where they barely lost one. They're barely getting by. And here's what's going to happen, Dan. When they play good opponents, when they play top 10 opponents, quarterbacks have to win those games. That's going to be the difference in those games. When everything is equal, who's going to be what's going to be the water that rises? It's usually the quarterback position. They have the worst quarterback of any team above them. And
Come on. That's no way. Milroe's a lot more talented than what the stats have showed.
Milroe would not start for Georgia. Milroe would not start for Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Washington, Oklahoma, Penn State, Texas, Oregon, or North Carolina. He would not start for those programs. They've already benched him once for two other guys. Let me be clear what I'm saying. He is not a top 10 quarterback in those teams. He would not start for any one of those teams. All those quarterbacks on those are better. And because of that, when you play top 10 talent, Alabama isn't as good. So there's nothing. They're not the dominant defense. They don't have dominant running backs. They don't have the dominant playmakers that they've had in the past. And they don't. And even if they did, they don't have a guy that can get them the ball. So it's really a moot point because Alabama is a good team, but they're not a top 10 team.
Well, we'll see when the rest of the season runs out.
I say that he is the reason why.
Well, after you ran down the teams, I can't argue on all those teams have a better quarterback, but I would argue that Alabama's defense makes a big difference, and they are one of the best defenses we've had in a long time.
They're not better than Georgia. They're not better than Michigan. They're not better than Ohio State. Probably Florida State. They're not better than Oklahoma. They're not better than Texas. And they're probably on par with Oregon, and they're better than North Carolina defensively.
Okay. All right. Well, what else in the top 25? Any movement that you wanted to call out, or any surprise entries or fallouts?
As I look at the top 25 right now, Dan, I mean, I think it's kind of where it should. Again, I said it earlier with my Huskies moving up 2 spots. They jumped Oklahoma. They jumped Penn State. They beat a top 10 program. We're going to find out this week of where kind of everything in college football, the landscape will start coming together, because I believe Ohio State is playing Penn State, which is going to be the game of the week. Georgia, I believe, has
off.
They have off. So they don't play until they play Florida on the 28th, which they'll probably beat by 2-3 touchdowns. Georgia probably has the easiest road to the season of any top 10 team, but it'll be interesting because I don't think they're as good or as dominant as they've been. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shapes up. But I think a lot of it will be defined by that Ohio State-Penn State game.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're definitely going to cover that, and for everybody watching and listening, make sure that you watch our or listen to our college preview for the upcoming week. We're going to cover the big games in depth again, the games to watch for, and definitely talk some ACC football, some North Carolina, and if you are interested in hearing about any of these other teams, please feel free to message me or Frank on any of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram. You can reach through the site. You can message us through YouTube as well as Covered Sports. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what you want to hear about. But our college preview will be coming out Thursday. The NFL recap comes out tomorrow, Wednesday. Along with tomorrow, we're also going to be covering keeping score with our Friday session of the Pick'ems. I don't know how Frank did.
How are you looking so far, Mr. Bailey?
I'm fine, except for one. My homer pick failed. My homer pick.
What's that?
Huh?
Which homer pick was that?
The Alabama game. Yeah.
Oh, the Alabama, the team that you're just trying to make everybody convince everybody that is better than what they are.
Hey,
the 19-point favorite
they are.
The 19-point favorite I said was the disappointment.
No question. Don't hear
that they aren't. That they were my disappointment of the week.
It doesn't matter.
The only team that didn't cover.
Who's the head coach?
The team that didn't cover in your picks. That's the one.
Who's the head coach? Who's the head coach?
The only team that didn't cover. I'm not talking about. I'm talking
titles. 7-9, Frank. You can't count the old man out.
It's only about last game. They barely beat Arkansas. They didn't cover.
No replays on scorecard.
They didn't cover.
Hey, guarantee they're in the SEC title game. Guarantee it. I guarantee it.
A cover too.
No, I'm not saying they're going to cover. I just said they're going to make it to the SEC title game.
They were going to win the race at Arkansas.
They were boat racing them and fell apart after a face mask.
They were boat racing them. They're up 3-0.
They're up 24-6. You just hung up on me. Well, either way, guys, hey, thank you so much for being here. Frank hung up on himself because he realized how ridiculous some of those statements he was making were.
Did you hang up on me?
You hung up on me, buddy. You hung up on me.
I didn't text my. You gotta get better service there.
I think that the service here said you're out of your mind and disrespecting the GOAT Nick Saban. I think it comes down to you should apologize to the GOAT now live. Say, GOAT, I'm sorry for my. What was that?
I think I realize now who collected the votes of the 2020 election. It was
whoa!
You were collecting votes.
Whoa! I live in South Carolina, not Georgia.
Yeah.
So let's get that straight right now.
Votes hanging up on me when somebody disagrees with you. I'm gonna just go ahead and hang.
No, the interwebs didn't agree with you, not along with me.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, guys, we'd love to hear from you. Love to hear from everybody that watches or listens. We hear you loud and clear about Carolina Steel. Frank and I are going to talk about the best time to do that. Probably going to be a Friday, maybe even do a Saturday during games. Look, love to hear from you. Thank you so much for being a part of our team and enjoying our commentary. I'm sorry for Frank's ignorance around the University of Alabama, but some people just have these mental handicaps they can't get past.
I was 5-0 last week, sir.
4-1. Okay. So
I know. I haven't lost a game. I didn't lose a game.
I said I was 4-1.
Okay. I was 5.
Cover that. But make sure you look for us tomorrow. NFL previews tomorrow. Pick'em's review is tomorrow as well. And then Wednesday, we're going to be doing our college football preview for the upcoming week. Thursday, we're going to do the NFL preview. And Friday, we're going to do our Pick'ems again.
My man's using his Alabama math again. 4-1, 5-0. I'm better.
No, I didn't say I was better. I said, no, I didn't say that.
We
can check the tape.
You also think 4-1, 5-0. You also think Alabama's better than those 10 programs I just meant. They're going to be in the SEC championship. They won't beat Tennessee this week.
Put your money where your mouth is.
I do all the time, sir.
Well, thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Tune in tomorrow. Find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Apple Podcasts.